Beneath the Magnolia Tree. In the sleepy town of Willow Creek, where summers hummed with cicadas and winters whispered through bare branches, lived a young woman named Evelyn Hart. She worked at the local library, where the scent of old paper and whispers of stories filled her days. Evelyn believed in quiet love, the kind that bloomed slowly, like the magnolia tree outside her window. One rainy afternoon, a stranger walked into the library. His name was Caleb Moore, a travel writer seeking refuge from the storm and inspiration for his next book. Tall, with dark hair that curled when wet and a voice like worn leather, Caleb was everything Evelyn wasn't. He was fire to her water, storm to her calm. Their first conversation was about books, naturally. He asked for something that doesn't end in heartbreak. She handed him Jane Austen's Persuasion with a smile that lingered just a second too long. Days turned into weeks. Caleb kept coming back, always finding a reason to stay a little longer. He'd read poetry aloud to her after closing hours, his voice wrapping around her like a blanket. Evelyn, in turn, showed him the hidden corners of the town, the abandoned greenhouse behind the church, the old railway bridge where fireflies danced in summer. One evening, under the magnolia tree where Evelyn spent her childhood reading, Caleb kissed her. The petals above trembled in the wind, and something shifted in her chest. Love, she realized, wasn't always thunderous. Sometimes it was soft, persistent, like roots growing underground. But love, like all good stories, has its trials. Caleb's publisher called. He was to travel to Italy for 6 months. He asked her to come. Evelyn, bound by duty to her aging father and the life she'd always known, said no. The night he left, she stood beneath the magnolia tree, a single blossom in her hand, watching taillights fade into memory. Seasons passed. Letters came. Long, handwritten ones that smelled of sea salt and foreign coffee. He wrote of Rome's golden light and Florence's narrow streets. She replied faithfully, even as her heart ached. Then, one spring morning, Evelyn opened the library to find Caleb standing there, sun-kissed, with a suitcase at his side and a magnolia flower in his palm. I realized, he said, the only story I want to write is ours. She didn't reply with words. She walked to him, took the flower, and pressed her lips to his. The town of Willow Creek whispered of their love for years to come, a love that started with books, grew beneath blossoms, and weathered distance like an old oak. The letters beneath the oak tree. In a quiet village nestled between the hills and a winding river, there stood an old oak tree. The tree had stood for generations, witnessing countless changes, but none as tender as the love between Emily and Thomas. Emily was the daughter of the town's baker, known for her kind heart and thoughtful words. Thomas was the son of a farmer, quiet and strong, with a deep love for poetry and the stars. They met under that old oak tree one summer afternoon when both were just 16. Emily had brought a book to read, and Thomas came to sketch the landscape. At first, their conversations were shy and brief. But as the weeks passed, they began to meet there often. They shared dreams, secrets, and laughter. Thomas would bring his poems, and Emily would bring her favorite novels. Their bond grew into something beautiful and unspoken. One day, Thomas confessed he had to leave. His father had fallen ill, and he needed to take over the farm in a distant village. They promised to write letters. Emily placed a small wooden box beneath the oak tree. "This will be our mailbox," she said with a tearful smile. And so, the letters began. Each month, Thomas left a letter in the box. Emily would read them aloud under the oak, as if he were still beside her. She replied with her own, tucked gently under a stone near the tree's roots. Seasons changed, years passed, and though they never saw each other, their hearts stayed close through ink and paper. 20 years later, the villagers noticed a man returning, older, with silver at his temples and a letter in his hand. It was Thomas. His family had passed on, and he had never stopped writing. But in the last few years, Emily's letters had stopped. He returned to the oak tree and found the box still there. Inside, one final letter waited, yellowed with age. It was from Emily. My dearest Thomas. If you're reading this, I may no longer be waiting under the oak, but I'll always be with you in the wind through its leaves, in the scent of fresh bread, in the poems you carry. I loved you through every season of my life. Yours always, Emily. Thomas sat under the tree for a long time, letting the breeze carry her voice to him once more. He never left the village again. Each morning, he visited the oak, bringing a flower or a poem, whispering stories of the stars. The villagers say the old tree bloomed a little brighter each spring after that, as if love, true and timeless, had taken root there forever.